Hello, I'm going to be making one of these. It's a style of loop that I really enjoy making. Still pretty short, but gives you a couple of extra seconds maybe to play with. Yeah, and it's not straightforward, but it's not difficult, and it's all within the case, and you don't need any special bits. So yeah, I'm going to show you my method. I'm going to be taking my time, and yeah, this isn't going to be a kind of a rush through video. So the first thing to do is to get ourselves a tape. Okay, so we have a fresh tape. And the first thing I will do is just take it apart. I prefer the tapes with screws in generally. They're just a bit easier to work with. Okay, so I'm going to approach this from a complete beginner's point of view, so this may not be useful if you're an experienced looper, but yeah, even if you are, maybe it'll be useful. So you crack open the shell, and then you have this kind of guidance mat, I guess, or a slip mat, I think some people call it. Then you have your reel, another slip mat, and then if you look at the tape here, it's pretty simple. You've got the felt, so the playhead pushes up against that. The playhead goes like that, and the tape runs along here. These are rollers just to help things move, and this is just a plate. Come back here. And what we're going to do is measure a piece of tape, and that tape is going to run like this. It's going to go around this reel, loop around this reel, kind of skim back over this one, and go down here. And while we're here, I just want to point out a couple of things. Not all tapes have them, but a lot of them do. These little pins here, I find they're really useful. And the reason is, if you cut some tape and you get it slightly wrong, this gives you some flexibility to increase or decrease the tightness of your loop. So if your loop is too tight, it's not going to work properly. It might snap, it might not roll or progress. And if it's too loose, it can end up getting chomped up or spooling out, can cause issues. So there's kind of like a sweet spot for tightness, and I actually measure that by pulling out the tape like that, and if I can get to about here, I think that's pretty good. Down here, too long. If I can't pull it out much at all, then it's usually too tight. So you can either pull the tape around this and underneath this pin, or you can go around the pin, and the same way as you come back, you can go around the pin or you can go under the pin. So you've got some options here to help you fine-tune your tape, which is useful. Shouldn't use magnetic screwdrivers because they mess with your tape, and that's bad. I need to get a ceramic one. Right, so this is my measuring stick, which is high technology. It's a piece of scrap wood that has centimetres from 0 up to 45-ish, a bit more over here. And I know that for the loop that I want to do, I need 37 centimetres. So it's from here to here. Like I said, we've got some flex in the actual length, but we're just going to use this tape here. These tapes are from Tape Line. I'll put a link in the description below. I feel like a real YouTuber when I say things like that. I'm not a real YouTuber. That's what they say, isn't it? Right, so here we have tape, and first thing we want to do is just chop it up, and then we've got this take up reel. Now it's probably worth just looking at this for a second. So if you can see here, not all tapes are the same, but in this design there is a section here, a little segment that's held in place by the tape that is running in, across and out. And if you just rip that tape out, there's nothing holding this segment in and it'll come out, which isn't the biggest deal, but if your tape is reliant on rolling around this, you might find there to be some inconsistencies if that's missing. So I generally leave that where it is, and what I tend to do is just cut off the bits. I usually do my cutting over wood, as in like scrap wood, not nice table wood. And then there's a few little sort of scrapings that you can get off, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Right, so I'm rushing this, and you can already see this is trying to come out. So the key to tape loops, I find, is to just not rush, and it's actually quite meditative. Now it's the evening for me and it's getting dark, so I'm going to add some light into the mix. Okay, so we have a reel and we have some tape. So what I tend to do is just measure a bit more than what I need. So let's say give myself 40 centimeters. This can go away. Now, tape. Tape is a great medium, but it can be tricky to work with, and this is probably more for beginners than anyone else. But if you look at the tape, there's an easy way to know where the tape data goes, and that is on the outer side of the tape. Look at the tape in profile. You can see here it kind of goes along like that. That's the natural curvature of the tape, and that's because it's been stored like that. So the head comes up and reads the data. So the outer side is where your music is, and the inner side is where your tape goes, this side. So you can put anything you want on this side, well, anything within reason. Yeah, so that's how you know which side is which. So what I tend to do is there's two ways of cutting. I've got this splice block here, which I'm not going to use for this demo, but you can do straight cuts, you can do diagonal cuts. Diagonal cuts are meant to be better, but generally I think it's easier to do them like that, but you accept that there's going to be some kind of a percussive crunch as the loop splice point goes over the tape head. And I think as you get better, you can improve your skills and get to a point where you don't really hear much in the way of a glitch as it progresses. But for now, all we're going to do is just focus on getting the right length taped together, and once it's taped, it goes into the shell, and then we can do stuff with it. So this is going to be a straight cut. So what I tend to do is eyeball it basically. Now these rubber bands are here because they're useful for securing the medium. So I'll go just past the 0 line there. So now we have a relatively tamed piece of tape. This is just my own method. There's plenty of other ways to do it. This is just the way I like to do it. So let's have a look here. So actually, looking at that looks reasonably good. But to demonstrate, I'm just going to cut it anyway. Now there are different schools of thought about what type of blade you should use and how to cut it. And actually, tape can be quite tough. It can fray if you don't cut it strongly enough. If your blade is too blunt, you can create rips. It's not straight, so it might take a few goes to get it right. So I'm just going to try here. And again, I'm just eyeballing it. So if I'm being honest, I don't think that is entirely at a right angle. So I'm just going to try it one more time. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Okay, so that looks good enough. So I'll move that to the 0 line, and then I want 37 centimeters. 35, 36, 37. This is just discarded, can't really do much with it. Now we have the right length of tape. The next thing to do is to tape it together. Now there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. The way I tend to try and do it is by hand and by eye. So you've got this loop like that, and then because of the curvature you want the tape to be on the inside. But what you don't really want, if you can help it, is an overlap, because we've measured this quite specifically, so we want it to be just right next to each other like that, preferably without any gap. So what we need for that, what I use is splicing tape. Splicing tape is not cheap, but you get quite a lot. This will last me a year or two, I would have thought, depending on how many I do. And you're going to want, I'd say about that much. Because it's an additional element, I tried to minimise the amount that I use, but it has to be reasonably robust. I'm not sure if you can see that, but where I pulled the tape off the reel, it's kind of come out slightly, so what I usually do is chop off the other end. Just so I have a nice clean cut bit of tape. Now, this is the bit that probably needs the most amount of care, because if you get it wrong, you may need to cut another piece of tape. And what we're trying to do here is lay the tape down, so half of that blue tape will be on this side, half on the other side of the tape, and it's going to sit within the boundaries of the tape itself. We don't want the blue tape to come outside of the track. And you don't have a lot of room. If you compare the splicing tape and magnetic tape, they're almost the same. The blue one is just a bit smaller, so you need to try and line it up so that it's laid across the brown tape with a little sliver of brown on both sides, and the blue is right in the middle. And that's probably the hardest part of this. So I'm going to try to do it by hand. You can use splicing blocks with things to secure things down. Definitely worth investing in if you can find them for cheap. They're vintage, but you can usually get them for like £10 in the UK anyway. So I've got my curve, so I know which side I'm taping, and I'm just going to try my best just to drop half this tape in place. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but I think I've done an okay job there. I can see actually there's a bit of the tape at the end, at the other end, which is a bit crunched, so I'm just going to try and scrape off that end bit. Nice. So that's the second hardest part. This is the hardest part. What we want is the other end to come in and land nicely on the other side of the sticky tape. For me, this is really a lesson in patience and calmness, because tape is like an angry worm. It just goes all over the place. So you need to move slowly. It sticks to you as well. So here is the hardest part, and there's no guarantee I can do a good job of this, but whatever we get, that's what we get. Not bad. Just secure it a bit. Yeah, not bad. Now comes the fun part. Don't like this anymore. We can start to make up our tape. So, what I tend to try and do, find the loop, the splice, okay, so there's a splice there. And I want to try and get that in here, in this section, this flat section. I just found that it can be easier just to keep it managed and controlled. Not sure if you can see there is definitely a gap. So there will be a glitch when it cycles. It's fine, I don't mind that. One day I'll get good and be able to do perfect splices, but for now, it's fine. So, this is the bit that can cause frustration, I think, because the tape is going to want to go in a different direction to where you want it to go often. And it seems to have gone in quite easily, but because the tape has these lips, the edges, the tape kind of goes out and wants to go different places. So I find that if you can get all of the tape on the same plane inside the tape shell, then it's easier to manipulate it. So just gently, just try and bring it all in. Doesn't matter where it goes, as long as it's on the same plane. Now I can see that's already popping over the edge, so I can just pull that tight a bit. Yeah, these are the teeth of the shell, and you don't want your tape caught up in the teeth. So I spend some time just working it through, trying to coax it over the edge. Yeah, that's gonna happen. Here is a roller, and inside the roller is a pin. This comes out, I find the easiest thing to do is put the pin back with your tweezers. And then you can put this directly back over the pin. So I was totally taking my time there, and I made a mistake and things went everywhere. That's going to happen. You cannot get stressed about this stuff. You just have to take it super easy and you'll get there in the end. So let me just get this back into the shell. And now I can start to gently coax it over the teeth. Okay, so this section here is now in place, so we like that. Now if you recall, the journey of the tape is going to be, so the capstan roller is going to be doing its work here, pushing or pulling, moving the tape this way. The tape's going to come around this roller, around this reel, back. Which means that this is already like this. There we go. Now this piece here just has to go on the other side of this rim, so I have to lift it up a bit. So yeah, that's all there is to it really. Last bit, we get our reel. Again, not rushing, finding a nice space for the reel to come in, and then we just gently pull it into place over the ridge. And the last thing we need to do is get ourselves another reel to go over here. Box of bits. So this one's going to be a black and white dealio, and this one is different. This one has a little kind of tube, which is still the same securing mechanism. Tape goes in and out, but it's just a plastic tube. So just gonna gently shave off the excess. Okay, same technique as before. We find a nice landing zone for the reel and then we gently push it into place, and hopefully when we do that we'll get our tightness that we're looking for. So let's see. I'll try not to drop it and ruin everything. Now I can tell straight away that this is tight. I could probably squeeze it across, but it's gonna end up being too tight. So I'm just gonna take this away. Remember I said earlier about these 2 points here? Well, let's take it under one of these points and give ourselves a bit more slack. And obviously when you do that, because you're lifting it, you have to realign the tape around the teeth. Sometimes the felt can hold the tape in place. I just had to push the tape down a little bit. Okay, so let's try this again. Take our reel. You can already see here there's more space to play with just by circumventing this pin here. There we go. I'll move the other way in real life, but yeah, that is it. Now, the test that I do is what I call the pull-out test, which is how far out can this go before I get it taut, and that's what I'm looking for. That's the give. The tape will be pushed in when it's being played, so that give is roughly the same amount of pressure that the tape head applies when it's playing. Give or take, it's not an exact science, but I've found that's the sort of pull out amount that I want. Cool. So now it's just a case of putting the other half back on. Now there's a little trick I like to try and do. This plate here can kind of be one of two places. It can be leaning back towards the reels, or it can be kind of forward. It tends to want to fall backwards. If you put the case on with this all the way backwards, it tends to not line up nicely on this side here. So I try to just pitch it forward just a bit, just so that plate falls down. And then when you place this over, you should have fewer problems. Now the other thing to try and do when you do this reassembly part is to line up these pins because those have corresponding holes, and you won't get anywhere if you don't land those in. So those are the points that I look at mainly. Once those pins are in, you're generally alright. Now, slightly concerned that there's a bit of crunching happening here. No, I think we're okay. Good. Now, just a case of putting the screws back in. One thing I've realised about this particular tape loop is it works differently depending on which side you put in. So if you think about the operation of a cassette player, when you're playing or recording, this is your take-up reel, and this is the one that's turning to take up the slack that would normally be acquiring on this reel. Obviously we don't have that particular problem because there is no slack. This is an endless tape, but it does help with the general direction of the tape, because if you follow the route, it'll go round and it'll go round in the right way and then back across. Now if you were to put it in that way, then the tape would be helped along here, but this tape on this side isn't in contact with this reel. The reel is in contact with the tape underneath, this one here, which wants to go this way, which is against the flow of the take-up reel. So I've had issues in the past where it's just not really been able to cope with that. It depends how strong your motor is, I guess. Anyway, we're almost done. Last thing. If you're only ever using this side of the tape, then you just need to fill in this hole. If you want to use both sides, which you may want to, just cover both tabs. So this, I think this is what's known as tabs out. And all you need is a bit of good old sellotape, and just cover over the gaps. And now you have a tape loop that can record and give you hours and hours of fun. Yeah, I really like these. Cool. Well, anyway, I hope that's been of some use to somebody out there. Please comment or grab me in the chat if you want to ask questions or give me ideas for different techniques or things that I could do differently or better. Yeah, that's it. Just a basic, very relaxed, slow video about tape loops.